Welcome back to another AVY Studios painting video. This time we're looking at these cryptic wraiths with their special rules such as ethereal, giving them terror, and their chill attack. Today I'll be painting 4 of these particular models that were sent to me by David as part of this massive Undead commission that I'll be unveiling in a future video. Gary Morley was of course the designer of these particular miniatures back in the early 90s for 4th edition Undead, and there are 8 models in total that were designed by Gary, and including a Wraith Lord which never had any stats, unfortunately. Would have been cool, but it looks like a nice character model. Anyhow, we're going to start off with our bone. We're going to use beige in this case, so beige will be our base coat for all the bone parts and all the models and all the wraiths. Now luckily there aren't many particular sections of bone on these miniatures. It's mainly just their robes and these giant two-handed scythes that they're carrying. When that was dry, I used some brown umber ink that I diluted a little bit with water and then used that as a wash to cover all the bone parts, and again allow that to dry. When dry, then I went back with the beige and went over and started highlighting and picking out all the sections of bone and all the raised areas on their faces, their teeth and jawbone, eye sockets, their nose cavities. Then I went over with the robes with some, in this case I'm using Vallejo purple, but the colour has actually changed since the batch that I had, so I had two particular different colours of beige. So 2 of those were painted in beige, 1 was painted in chaos black. I tried to keep it to the codex colours in the army book, but I had a little bit of variation here and there. And a Vallejo heavy dark green was applied to the 4th wraith with his dark green robes. For all the metallic parts that I was going to cover in silver later, I wanted to give these a base coat of chaos black first. And all the wooden textured areas of the models were given a base coat of burnt umber. The black was highlighted using blue greys such as field blue and pale blue grey as highlights, and I would use black ink or just to glaze and just to cut back into the highlights where necessary. Adding yellow, sunburst yellow, to our dark green, using that as a highlight and going over all the raised areas of the robes and picking that out, and then using the dark green as well to cut back into the highlights just to smoothen out those transitions. And white was added to the purple to create these highlights, again using some ink as well, and all of these robes just to use as a nice way to blend and to thin out and to give more vibrancy to the colours as I'm painting them. Details on this particular wraith, the borders of this robe were coated in beige initially because they were going to be yellow, and then the insides was going to be red, so I used blood red for that using all colours paints. And then the skulls were picked out individually using beige. I used flat earth and I used dead flesh as highlights, and then I used to just line those onto the wooden textured areas of the models just to line in their highlights there. Some of the models had some amulets or medallions they were wearing, so I was just picking those out with chaos black initially and then going over them with white or beige just to colour in the relevant sections, highlighting them appropriately, and going through and checking out any other details, because there are some hidden details on these models that I couldn't see initially and found out later. Now, a number of the models had this sort of lined in freehand detail down the bottom of the robes Basically I just use beige as my base coat and then mix beige with sunburst yellow to create the final line in on the details at the bottom of the robes. And then using armor wash, good old classic armor wash, thanks Cam, I washed that down on all the metallics to give them a nice dark, rich and worn appearance on them, maybe mixing a little bit of brown in there as well to make it look a bit more rusty, and waited that until they were dry. And then as they were drying, I used some goblin green from Wall Colors here as the base of the bases. And on one of the sides had some interesting sort of detail on the face of it, so I picked it out with Chaos Black, went over it with green highlighted with yellow, then with the flowers base coated with blood red and highlighted with yellow afterwards. Now that the metallics were dry, I like to go with a very light grey, even white as a highlight, and just running that over the very tops of the sides and the dagger point here, as I find it just gives a nice sharp highlight to the metallics. And here we have it, that we got all 4 finished, and David's really happy, and I'm really happy because I really enjoyed painting these particular models, so thank you again, David. If you are looking for commissions, please hit me up at abyled@gmail.com. Thank you again for watching, guys. See you again for the next one. Bye bye.